On time. Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology, and it's our regular Tactile Tech Thursday. And I was practicing our guest's name earlier, but I'm going to get it wrong. I'm sure I am. So it's Iain McKechnie? McKechnie. So here we are. We've got Iain with us. So Iain's at the Advanced Services Group at part of Aston University, and we've been working with Iain for about 3 years-ish now, looking at what we do as a business and how we can actually add more advanced services to what we do. But as always, first time on, it's good to really know a little bit about you, Iain. So like myself, you don't sound like you're from Birmingham. So where do you originate from? Tell us a little bit of early days of Iain.
where I was working on European funded research programs and manufacturing programs to support UK manufacturers. And then I ended up through a number of guises, through four different universities in the UK, one in Southern Ireland at Limerick. I was a senior researcher over there for a number of years. But all of the roles that I've had, and when we came into contact with the Advanced Services Group at Aston, have all been roles that have been external facing to the university and working with industry.
Yeah, so dealing with organisations like ourselves rather than dealing with the academic community within the university.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the Advanced Services Group. So I've been involved with you some time, but tell us a little bit about what you've done with some of the larger organisations and how that's filtered through into the SME community.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting story. We all congregated round about Professor Tim Baines. So Tim and I worked together when we were both at Cranfield University. And Tim moved to Aston in late 2011 to set up what is now known as the Advanced Services Group. And it was Tim, and then Eleanor and myself joined to run one of the regionals, European Regional Development Fund projects. And that was a little pilot project to help us understand how this term servitization, or adding services to support a product, would resonate with West Midlands manufacturing firms. And we got enough value from the first pilot that we then went on and secured additional funding. And I think we're probably up to about the 3.5 million mark since first joined Tim. But that money has all been used to support manufacturing SMEs, or what I would refer to as technology innovating SMEs, where you're perhaps providing data or storage or software as a service. So it's all about providing services to support customers in their use of your product.
Okay.
As it stands now, we're about 30 strong. We're a mixture of academics, researchers, industry leaders that we've got in through honorary professorships, and experts that are versed in helping and converting companies to adopt some of these servitization ways, and particularly moving into what we would refer to as advanced services. So there tend to be three different types of services that a manufacturer or technology firm could look at. You have base, where it is really just about making the product available. You've got intermediate, which is about making it reliable and making sure that it is in its optimum condition. And the goal is to get up into these advanced services where you're providing the capability for your customers.
And say I've always, tried to explain to people a little bit around the cutting the grass one that Tim uses, where you don't need a lawnmower because you've got a lawn, and then you buy a support package that if you got if it breaks, you get it fixed, and then maybe you get a service where they actually sharpen the blades and make sure it's working optimum, and go through that when I've described it to others. So, but it's that moving from that basic service really to delivering a capability to the organisation, so they don't need to do that themselves, isn't it? The main thing.
It's a really good example, Lee. But I think you talked about the companies that we work with. I think where it all started was really Goodyear Tires from Akron over in Ohio. And they were very interested in how they could add services to support their tires. And but they found it a very difficult place. There was no academic literature at this point in the sense of this industrial practitioner view. As it turns out, over the years, Tim is the number one cited academic in the world for servitization and the term advanced services. So we've built this reputation around about the research. Goodyear came along and said, look, this is a very lonely place. Could we work with you to maybe develop a group of companies that had shared interest in servitization or advanced services? And that has grown into a managed group of 10 firms from North America, from Europe, from the UK. And we work with these companies about 3 times a year, once in the UK, once in the US, once in Europe. And we share experiences, we share the latest research, and we bring in experts that can help these firms move to the next stage, along with the research that wraps around that. But one of my key roles is to use that material that comes from that. And the material might come in the form of case studies or research papers, or what we tend to do is develop mini guides that can be used by industry to help them actually work their way through this servitization journey. And these guides, we have about 12. 6 are already published. The other 6 are all in the process of being published at this point in time. But these are really the ways that we can understand what's happening with these large firms, but share it with local firms. So we use the European Regional Development Fund money to recruit local SMEs, and we've worked with in excess of 300 now, all within a 30-mile radius of Aston Business School. We've generated through these firms in excess of 31 million new revenues for the firms. So the firms have been quite successful in increasing the revenues through the relationships with their customers. And we use that to help us support the firms, but also understand what the firms are doing, the barriers, and how we can feed that back into the research to help us understand the impact that we're having. So it's very much a bit of a kind of closed loop process, but everything we do takes us higher and higher and builds this body of expertise and knowledge.
I'll say I've seen quite a bit of it firsthand from what what we've done with yourselves, and it is really interesting how you look at what these large organisations have achieved and how you can actually adopt that into your own business, and the value from it. And I think it is a challenge at the beginning to understand how it fits. And I think when we first started, we were in a room with very mechanical manufacturing people to start with, and we felt a little bit fish out of water to start with. But then I think as you change that and brought together more of the software and technical related businesses into it, it made it a little bit easier for us. But also then we started to understand the value of it as we went through the process, and quite quickly could see where we wanted to go with it. And I think it just takes time to look at this and get an understanding of what it means to you and your organisation.
That's a very good point. I think the thing that you've picked up on there, Lee, is about the common language. And part of the role of the mini guides is to make sure that we have a common language across all the firms that we work with and that we support, so that they all understand the relationship between the different elements of servitization and advanced services. I think the other beauty or the unique element that we bring to it is that we're focusing on the companies to help them achieve an outcome, because it is all about outcome-based contracts when you move into this space. And it's about us not necessarily sharing this is the way that you have to do it. It's about saying this is the framework and the reference, and this is what you need to consider when you're building your own servitization journey. And it is really about you taking that next step.
I think the other thing that we've seen is actually engaging with your customers or potential customers is quite critical to this as well, because other, otherwise you don't know really what you should be offering them unless you're engaged with them, and it's quite easy, especially if you're in that early day where you're currently just taking a product and delivering a basic service around it, to continue to do that and think that's what your customer wants, because unless the customer knows that there's another option, how do you or they know what to do? Yeah, and speaking to them, we found a lot about really what we were delivering and the needs of our customers from that early research and working with those customers to understand a little bit more about what they really wanted, and it was quite different to what we expected they would want as well.
Yeah, I think two things I would respond there, Lee. One is that there tend to be two big challenges when you're helping companies understand servitization and advanced services. One is that we've got to get the management team to stop thinking about the product and start thinking about the customer. The second part of it is how do you actually go along with that transformation journey? Because the change is a big part of it to organizations. Because when you start providing different services to customers, the skill set changes. You need different things within the organization to be able to deliver that successfully. But we have developed through the research, is a transformation roadmap. So we have a roadmap that takes firms through 4 different phases of how they would experience that by doing it themselves. And again, we can help with the first 2 elements, but when you get to the last 2 phases, that's really for the organization to do. But it's about having that common language and that everyone understands that there's a destination that's appropriate and that is much more beneficial because you're making the customer more successful.
Very true, very true. So one of the things I wanted also to talk about today was the conference in September, the 14th to 16th. I think it's going to be very different to what was originally planned, because it was originally going to be earlier in the year and it was going to be at the ICC in front of people. But because of what's happening with COVID-19, we can't do that now. So tell us a little bit about the conference and what you think, the key things you're trying to do with the conference.
Okay. As you say, it is different. We're using a virtual platform and we're providing exhibition booths and auditorium and help points and information desks, goodie bags. All of that will be on a digital platform. So as it stands at the moment, we've got 27 exhibitors. We've got 4 principal sponsors, and we're aiming for 500 manufacturing firms to join us across the 3 days. We have a lot of our global partnership working with us. So again, we're talking with Goodyear presenting. We've got Thales. Thales are a 19 billion euro organization. They're going to be presenting. We've got Tetra Pak are presenting, Domino Printing, Mazak. So a lot of organizations that we've been either working with through a partnership or we've been working with through other areas are all coming along to share their experiences of their journeys. How do you start? Where do you start? What are the common pitfalls? So it's all about trying to give the audience an understanding of the leap of faith that they took and what they've got from it. As you move into these outcome-based contracts, you need perhaps a financing house. You need contracts. So we've got people like DLL coming along to share their experiences of pay-per-use. So they help support large organizations across the globe to get them into that more ready state to be able to servitize. We have Rolls-Royce coming along to talk about design for service. So I can go on and on about large organizations. Some of the smaller SMEs that you're aware of, we've got Cool Mill, who do rice milling as a service.
Yeah, and so spent some time with Alec over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so Alec Anderson, small company from Solihull, but he is delivering rice milling as a service in India at the moment. We're working with him on a project in China. So the globe is a very small place when you start to deliver some of these services to support products remotely.
Yeah, and say it's amazing how it can be, put across, and it can be anything. I know that we've been speaking to a number of people like Peter at Aerospace, and how they're looking at design as a service type piece where machines are dedicated to customers and things in their workshops. And there's lots of different ways you can do it. And from our perspective, we're predominantly hardware and software around computing and data center infrastructure. So it's a little bit different to us, but it comes down to really, like I said, looking at what you deliver today, what the customer really needs, and why they need, particularly what they need, and how do you get from one point to the other. And it doesn't matter whether you're an SME or a large enterprise like Thales, the journey is very similar, isn't it? It's maybe on a slightly different scale. I think that's the only difference.
Well, I think one of the things you've just triggered there, Lee, is Tim wrote a book probably 6 years ago called Made to Serve, which featured five global firms, all generating in excess of 50% of their revenues through services. Two of them will be presenting at WSC. One is there's an ex-director from Xerox. Now, we had created a white paper with them back in 2013, and this is now the extension of that gap between 13 and 2020, what has happened to Xerox in that period of time. We've also got Mike Hume from Alstom, from the rail side of things, talking about their advanced service contract when they delivered the West Coast Pendolinos for Virgin, as it was before it was taken over by the new organisation. So we've got a lot of these companies that we've got history with that are coming to update what they're now doing and how things have changed again for them. But mixed in that with a number of panels that we're running. So we've got a blend of some of our sponsors, some of the industry big hitters, some of the SMEs, all coming together around a common topic, but looking at it from different perspectives. So it's a really good 3 days. We do have the Servitization Business Awards running, and I'm not ashamed to say our deadline is the 4th of September. So if there are any firms that get a chance to watch this, we can still take applications up until next Friday.
And
6 categories, and we're just keen that you can showcase what you're doing for your customers.
yeah, and I think the other thing to talk about quickly is the digital demonstrator platform that we've kicked off a project with across a number of organisations this month. Baxi are part of that, and they're looking at delivering heat as a service as part of their demonstration of that. We're looking to pull out 3 different areas: one around SMEs and delivering a complete solution to SMEs that includes monitoring and also automated remediation of issues. But we're also taking that same thing to be able to then offer operations as a service, and then further to deliver that into this new container world, offering Kubernetes cross cloud with operational management, which we think is going to be a key one from our perspective. So it's a project that's going to run for around about, I think it's 22 months, isn't it? It works out in total from August. So it runs for quite a while. So we're just in that early phase of understanding what the work packages are, putting together the planning for that. But we're already, is it 3 weeks into it, or maybe 4 weeks into it already, aren't we? So it's coming along quite quickly.
Well, I think that was one of the things that it's still embargoed because we haven't got the press release out in the public domain yet. But in kind of headline levels, Lee, we've got a digital servitization demonstrator that we're bringing together with Baxi, focusing on heat as a service, but it will include cloud technology in there. But we're also working obviously with yourselves and with Alec at Coolmill, and looking at how we can connect artifacts to that are different from just a domestic boiler. So trying to understand the way the different connections work. Ultimately, it's going to give a platform where companies can come in and test a business model to see where they need to change, where they need to invest, and what the commercial opportunities will look like. So we're very excited about that. And again, it's bringing in the relationships we have with industry, because Baxi work with us on a number of other programs, including the Digitally Enhanced Advanced Services Network Plus program. But we've got yourself and Alec from some of our local ERDF funded and subsidized SME program. So it's a nice contrast to, on the ground, local, but obviously working with firms that have the potential for a global reach and for improving the market position.
Yeah, that's it. Well, we're coming up to just over 20 minutes now, so I normally try and keep these down to around about 15 to 20 minutes at the most. So thank you very much for your time today. It really good to learn a bit more about where you started and how your journey personally has been. Also, hopefully we've given people a better view of what the Advanced Service Group at Ashton University does and how they work with large and small organisations to advance the delivery of services within those organisations. We've also talked about the conference, and was the best for people to go to find that? Is it that on the Advanced Services website or anywhere particular?
It's on the Advanced Services website, so it's advancedservicesgroup.co.uk, or if you just search for World Civitisation Convention. What I can do, Lee, is I can get a code for manufacturers to register, and I'll provide that, and perhaps we can add this to part of the dissemination of the video.
Well, you could drop it in the comments for this, because it's available afterwards. You could just drop it in a comment, and then people can use that to as a link to get to it and register if they want to come along virtually.
Okay, I'll just do that now, Lee, and then that's it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time today, and hopefully we speak soon.
That's great. Thanks again, Lee.
Bye.
Speak soon. Bye.